any of these sort of parts of our body where you're like, wow, it is sort of like magic as the way the Lord has created. And governance is an important part. We see it throughout Scripture. Obviously, it's an important part of sort of building of organizations. God's created human beings with the capacity to, lock arms and do things together in not just as individual humans, but as collective entities and institutions and nonprofits, and governance is so important. So I would say first, don't underestimate just the power of really good governance and how, like a super strong skeleton or circulatory system, it is unseen and sometimes unthanked, but it is essential to the movements of these organizations and then to the flourishing and thriving of the leaders and the people that they serve. And I would just encourage you to be a really safe place to listen. I mean, I think today's leaders, I'm encouraged by the fact that leaders are so open in our surveys. People are talking pretty openly. They're anonymous surveys, but they talk about their porn issues, or they talk about their identity issues, or their insecurities. And I think that's a great moment for survey research. I'm sure Warren would agree that, that it's actually, people still love to give their opinions, and they're so open and honest. It sometimes shocks me, and it's good. It's good for business. It's good for our work. But I just think being willing as a board chair, or as any member in a governance community, to just really listen, to be careful not to take that leap. Well, we do it this way in our business, and so it must work this way in the church. The church is not built on business principles, even though there can be, some important overlap. To be careful not to be the sort of the know-it-all and the easy answer person. There's very deep and systemic issues that can be part of the issues that plague our organizations. And we have a challenge, I think. Sometimes pastors, if we're really being honest, they love preaching and teaching. I mean, they tell us in the surveys, 7 out of 10 say that their main joy comes from preaching and teaching, and fewer than 1 in 10 say they love leading and administrating. So there is actually something structural about the way we've kind of layered the expectations of good communicators are also good leaders. And good leaders can be good communicators. They often are, but not every good communicator is a good leader. And I think we're actually seeing I think the pandemic actually, when the tide went out, we noticed how unclothed our discipleship efforts were, because we were building around the communication capabilities of 1 or 2 or whatever really talented leaders, but we haven't structured, and this is a big word here, but the pedagogical structures. We haven't created a learning community where we are all learning from one another under the way of Christ. And yes, there are certain sort of echelons of leadership, and pastors and prophets and apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, and evangelists. And we need different gifts to sort of edify and build up the church. But we haven't, I don't think, organized around the kind of things that really help people to learn in this crazy era of digital technology and the rest. So I just ask good questions, be a good listener, be willing to see that there are probably deeper answers to the questions that you're asking, and it's not always simple. But then pursue the ability for these leaders that you're serving to be wholehearted human beings. Don't push them under the weight of like, how can we grow? How can we grow? How can we grow? How can we redesign job descriptions towards the flourishing of the people that we're serving? Are they actually becoming new and better people? They're being transformed. We can measure that stuff now. It's imperfect, but it's better than just like, hey, did people show up? Did they give? And, what's the health of our organization from a numbers perspective? I think we can actually do a better job today of really saying, yeah, we're actually changing people's mindset and their lived experience related to relationships. Did your ministry do that? And I think there's some really great ways that we can focus on some deeper goals together, what Christ really calls us to. And
subscribe to our YouTube channel for more finance, governance, and fundraising news and insights for your church or ministry.